Admiral Vexor's antennae twitched with mild irritation as another human child darted past, nearly colliding with the Admiral's ceremonial cape. The diplomatic tour of Earth's typical family dwellings seemed like an unnecessary detour from the serious business of first contact, but the Council had insisted on understanding human social structures. "And this is the Chen residence," the diplomatic guide announced, gesturing to a modest two-story house with solar panels glinting on the roof. "They represent an average Earth family involved in our educational system." Vexor's external eyes focused on the building while their secondary set tracked the various security drones hovering discreetly overhead. The Admiral's species had evolved from cautious hive builders, and the concept of individual family units still seemed oddly inefficient. The front door opened to reveal Dr. Elena Chen, a quantum computing researcher, who welcomed them with practiced grace. "Admiral, we're honored to participate in this cultural exchange. Please, feel free to observe our home environment." As they moved through the living space, Vexor noted the curious mixture of advanced technology and purely decorative items. A holographic family photo hung next to a child's hand-drawn picture. A quantum-encrypted communication panel shared wall space with what appeared to be preserved vegetation in a frame. A soft blue glow emanating from upstairs caught the Admiral's attention. "And that area?" Vexor inquired, four-fingered hand gesturing toward the light. "Ah, that's Sarah's room," Dr. Chen replied. "My daughter is probably using her simulator again. Would you like to see? She's quite enthusiastic about space science." Vexor's antennae perked with mild interest. Perhaps observing a juvenile human's attempts at space science would provide some diplomatic amusement. The group ascended the stairs, and Vexor had to duck slightly to enter the bedroom. The Admiral stopped abruptly, all four eyes widening at the scene before them. Stars filled the room. A holographic display transformed the space into a sector of the galaxy Vexor instantly recognized: the Carina Nebula's outer rim. In the center of this stellar canvas, a young human girl sat cross-legged on her bed, hands dancing through the air as she manipulated the simulation. "Oh, hello." Sarah turned, her fingers still adjusting something in the starfield. "Sorry, I'm just calculating a gravity assist around that pulsar. The timing has to be perfect, or the radiation will fry my virtual ship's shields." Vexor watched as the simulation showed a small vessel executing a slingshot maneuver around the spinning neutron star. The trajectory was surprisingly precise. "This is a game?" the Admiral asked, studying the complex gravitational calculations floating in the corner of the display. Sarah shook her head. "It's a simulator. NASA and some game companies made it. We learn real space navigation while having fun. Look." She pointed to a cluster of numbers. "That's the decay rate for the satellite passing overhead right now. I can track it through my bedroom window." Vexor's antennae twitched again, this time in dismissal. "Young one, calculating orbital decay requires." "There it is," Sarah interrupted, pointing out her actual window. Right on cue, a point of light moved across the evening sky. "It's about to brush the upper atmosphere. Watch the tumble pattern." The Admiral's external eyes tracked the satellite while their secondary set monitored the simulation. The virtual prediction aligned perfectly with reality as the spacecraft tumbled exactly as Sarah's calculations had shown. Impressive. For a children's entertainment, Vexor offered diplomatically, though their antennae betrayed genuine surprise. Sarah grinned, already focused back on her pulsar navigation. "Thanks. Hey, want to see something cool? There's this asteroid I've been tracking that's going to pass through a really interesting gravitational lens effect next week. The official plots show it missing everything important, but if you factor in all the tiny gravity wells from the debris field." "Perhaps another time," the diplomatic guide interjected smoothly. "We should continue the tour." As they descended the stairs, Vexor found their thoughts returning to the remarkable precision of that orbital decay prediction. Simply a coincidence, surely. After all, what could a human child's game possibly offer that galactic technology couldn't already calculate? The Admiral would remember this moment in the weeks to come, when that very question would shake the foundations of galactic scientific certainty. Admiral Vixer stood motionless before the tactical display aboard the Galactic Council's monitoring station Epsilon 7, all four eyes fixed on the holographic representation of local space. The massive asteroid had appeared from behind a dense cosmic dust cloud, its irregular surface reflecting minimal light, which explained why they hadn't detected it sooner. "Analysis complete, Admiral," announced Senior Analyst Cletheri, their crystalline form refracting the starlight as they interfaced with the station's quantum processors. The object's mass is approximately 2.7 kilometers in diameter, composed primarily of nickel iron with trace radioactive elements. Trajectory. Vixor's antennae twitched with practiced calm, though the Admiral's secondary eyes remained fixed on the small blue planet visible in the corner of the display. "Our calculations show it will pass safely through Sector 47B, missing all inhabited systems." Cletheri projected the path, a graceful arc that swung wide of Earth's orbital plane. "The margin of error is well within acceptable parameters." Vixer nodded, but something nagged at the edge of their consciousness. That human child's voice echoed in their memory. "If you factor in all the tiny gravity wells from the debris field." "I need to make a diplomatic courtesy call," Vixor announced, surprising their staff. "Continue monitoring." 20 minutes later, the Admiral's personal shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere. The Chen household appeared exactly as before, though now the setting sun cast long shadows across its modest facade. Sarah Chen sat in her usual spot, surrounded by stars, but her expression was unusually serious. She looked up as Vixor ducked through her doorway, and the Admiral was struck by the concern in her eyes. "You've seen it too, haven't you?" she asked without preamble. Vixor's antennae twitched in surprise. "The asteroid? How could you possibly?" "It showed up in our network this morning," Sarah explained, expanding her simulation to fill the room. "Someone in the Australian simulator hub spotted it first. We've all been running calculations since then." The Admiral studied the display. The trajectory looked different from their official projections, much different. "Your model appears to be in error," Vixer said carefully. "Our calculations clearly show." "With respect, Admiral," Sarah interrupted, sounding far older than her 12 years, "your calculations aren't accounting for everything. Look here." Her fingers danced through the holographic debris field. "This region is full of small objects, each with its own gravitational influence. And here," she pointed to a seemingly empty area, "there's a dense cluster of dark matter that the simulator mapped last year during a collaborative project." Vixer's antennae went rigid. Dark matter mapping through a gaming network? Impossible. Not a game, remember. NASA helped design it. We have thousands of kids running complex orbital calculations every day because it's fun. We spotted the dark matter by tracking subtle gravitational lensing effects that showed up as scoring anomalies. The Admiral watched as Sarah overlaid her trajectory calculations. The asteroid's path bent slightly through the debris field, altered further by the dark matter cluster, and then— "That's not possible," Vixor whispered. "The simulator's never been wrong about orbital mechanics," Sarah said quietly. "We checked this calculation 47 times. Different users, different locations, same result. The asteroid will hit Earth in exactly 17 days, 4 hours, and 23 minutes. Vixor's secondary eyes closed in thought. The Galactic Council's calculations were considered infallible. Suggesting otherwise, especially based on a human educational tool, would be career suicide. And yet— "Show me your supporting data," the Admiral said finally. Sarah nodded and began pulling up streams of information. "The really interesting part is when we factor in the solar wind variations. See, there's this complex interaction between the charged particles and the asteroid's metallic composition." As the young human explained, Vixer felt the weight of the situation settling onto their shoulders. If the child was wrong, the Admiral would face minor embarrassment for taking the human game seriously. But if she was right, and they ignored the warning, "Send everything to my shuttle's computer," Vixor ordered. "And Sarah, keep monitoring. Don't discuss this with anyone else yet." The girl nodded solemnly. "Admiral, thanks for listening. Most adults wouldn't." Vixor's antennae twitched in what might have been a smile. Perhaps that's part of the problem. As the Admiral's shuttle climbed back through the atmosphere, Vixor began composing a carefully worded message to the Council. Sometimes the hardest part of leadership was admitting that wisdom could come from unexpected places, even from a human child's bedroom. The NASA Research Center at midnight should have been quiet. Instead, Admiral Vixor found themselves surrounded by a flurry of activity as scientists and engineers responded to their unexpected visit. The Admiral's 4 eyes tracked multiple conversations simultaneously, while their antennae picked up the subtle electromagnetic signatures of dozens of active computer systems. As you can see, Admiral, the Space Navigation Education Initiative wasn't just a game project. Dr. Marcus Wong, the lead developer, pulled up a holographic display of the simulator's architecture. "We wanted to revolutionize how we teach space science." Vixor studied the complex web of interconnected systems. "But why involve entertainment companies?" "Because they know how to make learning addictive," interjected Dr. Elena Chen, who had joined them after Vixor's urgent call. "Gaming companies understand how to maintain engagement, create reward systems, and encourage problem-solving. My daughter Sarah has spent more hours practicing orbital mechanics than most university students, and she thinks of it as fun." The Admiral's antennae twitched as they processed this concept. "Show me the computational core." Dr. Wong nodded and expanded part of the display. The simulator runs on a hybrid quantum classical architecture. When kids plot their courses, they're actually using advanced mathematical models that would make most physicists sweat. But here's the genius part. They don't need to understand the underlying math. The interface translates complex orbital mechanics into intuitive visual patterns. "Impossible," Vixor stated flatly. "Our youngest initiates spend decades mastering these principles." "Watch this," Dr. Chen said, pulling up a video feed. A group of children, ranging from 8 to 14 Earth years, sat at their simulators. Their hands moved through holographic controls with practiced ease. They're currently calculating a complex slingshot maneuver around a binary star system. Vixor's secondary eyes widened as they saw the accuracy of the trajectories. But they're not using standard gravitational equations. No, they're using pattern recognition and spatial reasoning. Dr. Wong explained. Humans, especially young ones, excel at recognizing visual patterns. We designed the interface to tap into that natural ability. The math happens behind the scenes. The Admiral moved closer to the display, studying the children's work. And this connects to a larger network. Global, Dr. Chen confirmed. When Sarah practices, she's connected to thousands of other young pilots worldwide. They share discoveries, verify each other's calculations, and collectively map space phenomena we didn't even know existed. Like the dark matter cluster, Vixor murmured. Exactly. Dr. Wong brightened. The kids found that by accident. They noticed their high scores dropped in certain regions of space, where there shouldn't have been any gravitational influence. We investigated and found they'd mapped a dark matter field through pure gameplay. Vixor's antennae flattened in thought. This explains the asteroid calculations. Your simulator accounts for minute gravitational influences that our systems typically ignore as insignificant. Because children don't know they're supposed to be insignificant, Dr. Chen said softly. They just plot the course that feels right. And the simulator translates their intuition into precise mathematical models. The Admiral turned all 4 eyes to the scientists. Why wasn't this capability included in your first contact briefing? Dr. Wong looked embarrassed. Would you have believed that one of humanity's most sophisticated space research tools was disguised as a children's game? Vixor remembered their own dismissive reaction to Sarah's simulator and felt their antennae droop slightly. No, I would not have. and that preconception might now cost us dearly. They straightened. I need complete documentation on your system. The Galactic Council must understand what we're dealing with. As the scientists gathered their data, Vixer watched the children on the video feed. They laughed and challenged each other while casually performing calculations that would humble veteran space navigators. The Admiral's species had evolved from hive builders, valuing order and hierarchy. But perhaps humanity's chaotic approach to learning held wisdom they had overlooked. A soft alert chimed from their communicator. Sarah's latest asteroid calculations had arrived, and with them, a growing certainty that the Galactic Council's perfect order was about to face its greatest challenge. The holographic display aboard monitoring station Epsilon 7 split into two distinct projections. The Galactic Council's official trajectory on the left, Sarah's simulator predictions on the right. Admiral Vixer stood between them, all four eyes tracking the diverging paths while their antennae detected the growing tension in the room. Another sensor update, Admiral. Senior Analyst Clotheri announced, their crystalline form pulsing with data patterns. The asteroid's current position matches the human simulator's projection down to a deviation of only 0.003 light-seconds. Vixer's secondary eyes narrowed. Compare that to our official model. The Council's trajectory shows a deviation of 1.7 light-seconds from actual position. Clotheri's crystal surface dimmed slightly, a sign of distress in their species. The gap between predicted and actual paths continues to widen. The Admiral activated a communication channel to Earth. Sarah's face appeared in a small hologram, surrounded by the now familiar star field of her bedroom simulator. Your calculations are proving accurate, young one. Explain to me again about these minor variables. Sarah nodded, her fingers dancing through the air as she pulled up multiple data streams. It's like a cosmic butterfly effect, Admiral. See this cloud of space debris? She highlighted a seemingly empty region. Each piece is tiny, but they create a web of gravitational influences. Our simulator network mapped them through thousands of game sessions. Game sessions that produced actual scientific data. Vixer mused. Show me the solar wind calculations. The display shifted, revealing complex patterns of charged particles flowing from the local star. Sarah's voice grew animated. This is the really interesting part. The asteroid's metallic composition creates a slight electromagnetic interaction with the solar wind. Over millions of kilometers, these tiny pushes add up. Impossible to track such minute forces, Clotheri interjected. The computational power required would be distributed across thousands of linked simulators. Sarah completed. We're not doing it alone. Right now there are kids in Tokyo, Lagos, Buenos Aires, and dozens of other cities all running parallel calculations. The simulator combines our results automatically. Vixer's antennae twitched as a new alert sounded. Incoming sensor data. The room fell silent as both trajectories updated. The asteroid's actual position shifted again, following the curve predicted by Sarah's network with uncanny precision. The Council's model showed an even larger deviation. Admiral, Clotheri's voice held a note of concern their species rarely displayed. I've analyzed the simulator's base code. Their calculations include hundreds of variables our systems classify as negligible: micrometeoroid density, thermal radiation pressure, even quantum fluctuations in spacetime. Negligible individually, Vixer noted, but combined. They create cascading effects over long distances, Sarah explained. That's why the Council's trajectory keeps drifting off. You're missing all these small influences that work together to change the asteroid's path. Vixer studied the diverging projections. The Council's model still showed the asteroid passing safely through empty space. Sarah's simulation, supported by increasingly accurate sensor data, showed it heading directly for Earth. Young one, the Admiral spoke carefully. Your simulator network has mapped other sectors of space, correct? Of course. We have detailed gravitational maps of most nearby systems. It's how we score points in exploration mode. Sarah paused, reading the Admiral's tone. "You want to look for alternative solutions. If your trajectory proves correct, we have limited time to act. The Council's evacuation protocols would take longer than we have, and Earth's defense systems are insufficient for an object of this size." Sarah's eyes lit up. "Let me contact the other simulator pilots. If there's a way to deflect it, we'll find it. We're really good at solving space puzzles." Vixer felt their antennae twitch in what might have been amusement. Here they were, a senior admiral of the Galactic Council, placing the fate of a planet in the hands of children playing a game. "And yet, send all data to my station," they ordered. "Every calculation, every variable, no matter how small." Perhaps it's time the Council learned that wisdom can come in unexpected forms. As Sarah's hologram winked out, Vixer turned all four eyes to the diverging trajectories. The next sensor update would arrive in 6 hours. By then, they needed to decide: trust centuries of galactic science, or the remarkable insights of human children who had turned space itself into their playground. Admiral Vixer's personal shuttle cut silently through Earth's atmosphere, cloaked from human detection systems. The evening sun cast long shadows across the Chen residence as they landed in the backyard, using the garden shed as cover. Breaking protocol like this could end their career of 300 cycles, but the latest sensor data left no choice. Sarah was waiting at her bedroom window, already clearing space on her desk. The Admiral ducked through the door, their ceremonial cape replaced with a simple technician's uniform to avoid attention. "I brought what you asked for," Vixer said, placing a crystal data core on the desk. "This contains classified sensor readings from our long-range arrays. No human is authorized to see this data." Sarah nodded solemnly. "And no galactic official is supposed to share technology with my species. Looks like we're both breaking rules to save lives." The Admiral's antennae twitched in surprised appreciation of her understanding. The Council would say we're being reckless. "Sometimes the biggest risk is not taking one," Sarah replied, connecting the crystal to her simulator. The room's holographic display expanded, filling with new data points. Besides, the simulator network is better at processing raw data than any single computer. It's like having thousands of fresh perspectives looking at the same problem. Vixer watched as the new sensor data flowed into the simulator network. Within minutes, young pilots around the world began incorporating the information into their calculations. The Admiral's secondary eyes tracked multiple chat windows where children discussed orbital mechanics with the casual ease of talking about their favorite snacks. "Look at this," Sarah pointed to a new simulation running in the corner. Raj in Mumbai found something interesting in the asteroid's rotation pattern. Maya in Cairo is already calculating how it affects the trajectory. The Admiral moved closer, all four eyes focusing on the complex gravitational interactions being mapped in real time. "Your species approaches problems differently than ours." "How so?" "We seek perfection through careful, methodical analysis. Each variable is studied in isolation before being added to the whole. But you..." Vixer gestured at the chaotic yet productive collaboration happening across the simulator network. "You throw everything in at once and somehow find patterns in the chaos." Sarah's fingers danced through the holographic controls, adjusting their view of the asteroid's path. "Sometimes you need to see the whole picture to understand the small parts. Like this." She highlighted a series of tiny gravitational eddies. "Each one is too small to matter alone, but together they're acting like a gravitational lens, bending the asteroid's trajectory more than anyone expected." A soft chime indicated another sensor update. Vixer felt their antennae go rigid as the new data appeared. The asteroid's actual position had shifted again, matching the simulator network's predictions perfectly. The Council's trajectory calculations were now off by a significant margin. How long until the Council realizes their projections are wrong? Sarah asked quietly. "Too long," Vixer replied. "The system is designed to reject any data that differs too greatly from expected parameters. They'll recalibrate again and again, believing their instruments are malfunctioning rather than accepting the trajectory could be so far from their calculations." Sarah sat back in her chair. chewing her lower lip thoughtfully. Then we need to find a solution before they figure it out. The simulator network has mapped every gravitational influence within 50 light years. There has to be a way to use that knowledge to deflect the asteroid. Vixer studied the young humans' determined expression. In their centuries of service, they had never met a species quite like this one. Humans didn't just think outside conventional boundaries. They seemed unaware such boundaries existed at all. Keep working, the Admiral decided. I'll find a way to buy us more time with the Council. And Sarah, they paused at the door. Thank you for reminding an old Admiral that wisdom doesn't always come wrapped in ceremony. Sarah grinned, already turning back to her calculations. Thank you for being brave enough to listen. As Vexer's shuttle lifted off, they received a priority message from Cletheri. The Council was calling an emergency session. The Admiral's antennae twitched. Soon, they would have to decide between their duty to the Council and their growing conviction that humanity's unconventional wisdom might be their only hope for salvation. The NASA control room hummed with energy as screens displayed simulator connections lighting up across the globe. Admiral Vixer stood with Dr. Wong and Dr. Chen, watching as thousands of young pilots logged in simultaneously, their combined processing power surpassing anything the Admiral had seen outside of galactic mainframes. 20,000 active users, Dr. Wong announced, his fingers flying across the holographic controls. No, wait. 25,000 and climbing. Words spreading through the simulator network. Vixer's antennae twitched as they processed the numbers. All these children are working on the asteroid problem. They think it's a special event challenge. Dr. Chen explained. Sarah helped us design it. We presented the real asteroid data as a unique puzzle scenario, complete with scoring systems and achievement rewards. On the main screen, a global map pulsed with activity. Teams of young pilots from different continents collaborated in real time, sharing discoveries and building on each other's calculations. The Admiral's secondary eyes tracked the data streams, noting the sophisticated mathematical models emerging from what looked like playful competition. Look at this solution from Team Singapore. Dr. Wong highlighted a particular simulation. They're proposing using the dark matter cluster as a gravitational lens to alter the asteroid's trajectory. The math is graduate-level astrophysics, but they worked it out through pure trial and error. And here, Dr. Chen pointed to another stream. A group from Brazil discovered a unique interaction between solar wind particles and the asteroid's metallic core. They were trying to earn bonus points for style, but they accidentally mapped a new principle of stellar physics. Vixer moved closer to the displays, all four eyes widening. These children, they're not just playing. They're pushing the boundaries of known space science. Because they don't know where those boundaries are supposed to be. Sarah's voice came from behind them. She entered the control room with a tablet in hand, her simulator still running complex calculations. When you make something fun, people want to explore every possibility. The Admiral turned to face her. Show me what your network has discovered. Sarah nodded and connected her tablet to the main display. The room filled with a holographic map of local space, far more detailed than any galactic survey. Tiny gravitational influences were mapped with incredible precision, forming a complex web of interactions that the Council's models had always ignored as insignificant. Each point of data came from a different pilot, Sarah explained. Someone in Cairo finds a small gravity eddy while trying to boost their score. A team in Tokyo maps a radiation pattern while racing their virtual ships. A kid in Lagos discovers a new asteroid while exploring for fun. The simulator collects it all, verifies it through multiple users, and adds it to the network. The Council's greatest scientific achievement was the Universal Mapping Initiative, Vixer said quietly. It took 50 years and our most advanced ships. Your children did more detailed work while playing after school. Dr. Wong smiled. That's the beauty of it. By turning space exploration into an engaging challenge, we tapped into something unique to human nature. Our love of play, our desire to compete and collaborate, our need to push boundaries just to see what happens. A new alert chimed through the control room. Sarah rushed to a console, her eyes lighting up. "Admiral, look at this. Team Australia just found a potential solution. If we combine their gravity lens calculations with Team Singapore's dark matter mapping." Vixer studied the proposed trajectory modification. It was elegant, unconventional, and completely unlike anything in the Galactic database. Most importantly, the simulator's predictions showed it working with a success probability of 97%. The Council would never approve such an unorthodox approach, the Admiral mused. "Maybe that's why they need to see it," Sarah suggested. "Sometimes the best solutions come from people who don't know something is supposed to be impossible." Vixer's antennae twitched in what might have been amusement. They had come to Earth expecting to find a primitive species playing at space exploration. Instead, they discovered humans had turned the greatest challenges of cosmic science into a game that children mastered for fun. Perhaps it was time for the Galactic Council to learn that innovation doesn't always wear a formal uniform or speak in measured tones. Sometimes it came from young minds who saw the universe not as a problem to solve, but as a playground to explore. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council gleamed with crystalline architecture, its soaring curves designed to inspire awe. Admiral Vixer stood before the assembled council members, their ceremonial cape replaced with a simple technician's uniform, a deliberate choice that had already raised eyebrows among the gathering. "Honorable Council," Vixer began, their antennae steady despite the tension. "I present evidence that our current asteroid calculations are incorrect. The human simulator network has produced more accurate predictions, and they have found a viable solution." High Counselor Zexnar's bioluminescent patterns flickered with disapproval. "You base this assertion on a children's entertainment program." "I base it on data, Counselor." Vixor activated a holographic display in the chamber center. Observe the actual sensor readings compared to both trajectory models. The displays split into three paths: the Council's prediction, the simulator network's calculation, and the asteroid's true position. Several Council members shifted uncomfortably as the evidence became clear. "This could be coincidence," another counselor suggested, "or instrument malfunction." Vixer's secondary eyes tracked the growing unease in the chamber. "With respect, we've received 12 sensor updates. Each one matches the human predictions perfectly. The statistical probability of coincidence is astronomically low." "Even if their calculations are accurate," Zexnar interjected, "you cannot seriously suggest we implement a solution developed by juvenile humans." The chamber's doors slid open, and Sarah Chen entered, flanked by Dr. Wong and her mother. The council chamber's automated translation field activated, allowing everyone to understand each other. "Actually," Sarah said, her voice clear despite her nervousness, "we'd like to show you how we found the solution." Vixer nodded encouragingly, and Sarah connected her tablet to the chamber's display system. The holographic asteroid visualization expanded, showing the complex web of gravitational influences the simulator network had mapped. "Our network discovered 3 key factors you missed," Sarah explained, highlighting different areas. "First, the dark matter cluster here creates a stronger gravitational lens than expected. Second, the asteroid's metallic composition interacts with solar wind patterns in ways your models don't account for. And third, the debris field's collective gravitational effect acts like a magnifying glass for both other factors." "Impossible," one counselor scoffed. "The computational power required to map such minute influences would exceed our largest facilities." Dr. Wong stepped forward. "That's because you're thinking like a traditional computer. We have thousands of young pilots running simultaneous calculations through gameplay. Their combined processing power, guided by human intuition and pattern recognition, solved problems your systems couldn't even see." Vixor activated another display, showing the global simulator network in action. The council chamber filled with images of children worldwide, all working together seamlessly on complex astronomical calculations while having fun. "Look at their methodology," Sarah pointed out. Team Caro found the dark matter interaction, while trying to beat Team Tokyo's high score. A pilot in Brazil mapped the solar wind patterns during a racing challenge. Every discovery came from someone playing, exploring, trying the impossible, because nobody told them they couldn't. The chamber fell silent as the evidence mounted. Sensor data continued matching the simulator's predictions with unwavering accuracy. The Council's trajectory calculations drifted further from reality with each update. High Counselor Zexnar's bioluminescence pulsed thoughtfully. "You propose we accept help from human children." "I propose," Vixer said carefully, "that we recognize wisdom can come from unexpected sources. The simulator network has produced a viable deflection plan with a 97% success probability. Our own solutions have yet to exceed 60%. Sarah brought up the proposed solution, showing how it would use the very gravitational influences the Council had dismissed to alter the asteroid's course. The mathematics were elegant, the physics sound, even if the approach was unconventional. "Time grows short," Vixer reminded them. "We must decide. Trust in our traditional methods, which the evidence shows are flawed, or embrace an innovative solution from a species that turns space itself into a playground for learning." The Council chamber erupted in discussion. As the debate raged, Sarah caught Vexer's eye and smiled slightly. They both knew that sometimes the hardest part of wisdom was admitting that children might see truths that adults had forgotten how to find. The observation deck of Monitoring Station Epsilon 7 offered a perfect view of the operation. Admiral Vixer stood with Sarah Chen and representatives from both Earth and the Galactic Council, watching as their unprecedented collaboration unfolded in space before them. "Teams are in position," Sarah reported, monitoring the simulator network's global activity. "Pilots from 67 countries are running real-time calculations. We're ready." Vixer's antennae twitched as they studied the massive asteroid through the station's viewport. Their plan would use the dark matter cluster as a gravitational lens, precisely calculated by thousands of young pilots working in perfect synchronization. "Council vessels report ready," Cletheri announced, their crystalline form pulsing with data patterns. "Waiting for simulator network confirmation." Sarah nodded to Dr. Wong, who initiated the final sequence. Across Earth, children who thought they were participating in the simulator's biggest special event ever began their calculated maneuvers. Their combined calculations flowed through the network, guiding the Council ships into precise positions. "Remarkable," High Counselor Zexnar observed, their bioluminescence shifting with interest. "Each human pilot handles only a small part of the calculation, yet together, they see patterns we missed for centuries," Vixer completed. "Sometimes the best solutions come from minds unconstrained by traditional limitations." The operation unfolded like an intricate dance. Council ships positioned themselves according to the simulator network's guidance, using their gravitational field generators to enhance the natural forces the children had mapped. The asteroid's trajectory began to bend, following exactly the path Sarah's team had predicted. "Energy field synchronization at 98%, Cletheri reported. "Dark matter lens effect building exactly as the simulator calculated." Through the viewport, they watched the massive rock gradually shift course. Hours of careful adjustments, guided by the precise calculations of children who saw space as a playground rather than a problem, slowly but surely altered its path away from Earth. "Final trajectory confirmed," Sarah announced, her eyes bright with excitement. "The asteroid will pass safely through the outer solar system. All simulator network calculations show zero probability of future collision." The observation deck erupted in celebration. Human scientists hugged their galactic counterparts, while Sarah's simulator network lit up with victory messages from young pilots worldwide who had just helped save Earth, even if most of them thought it had just been an elaborate game. "Admiral," High Counselor Zexnar approached Vixer, their patterns showing formal respect. "Your trust in human innovation was unconventional, but the results are undeniable. The Council has decided to establish a permanent exchange program." Vixer's secondary eyes widened. "Exchange program?" "Yes. We will share our scientific knowledge with Earth, and in return, this Nars bioluminescence shifted to what might have been amusement. We wished to study their educational methods, particularly this remarkable simulator network. Sarah, overhearing this, grinned. Does this mean we can make a version for young aliens too? Indeed, this Xnar confirmed. The Council believes we have much to learn from your species' approach to learning itself. Admiral Vexor will oversee the initiative, assuming they accept the position. Vexor's antennae twitched with surprise and pleasure. It would be my honor, though I suspect my first task will be explaining to the Council that learning can be enjoyable. Speaking of enjoyment, Dr. Wong interjected, checking his tablet. The simulator network is buzzing. Word of this special event's success is spreading. We have over 50,000 new pilot registrations in the last hour. Sarah laughed. Wait until they find out about the new alien levels we're going to add. As the celebrations continued, Vexor watched Earth rotating slowly beyond the viewport. When they had first visited the Chen household, they had seen only a child playing a game. Now they understood that humanity's greatest strength might be its ability to transform the most complex challenges into opportunities for growth, discovery, and joy. In the days that followed, simulator stations appeared in schools across the galaxy. Young aliens of all species eagerly joined their human counterparts in exploring space through play. The Galactic Council's databases grew exponentially as this new generation of pilots mapped phenomena that traditional science had overlooked. And in a bedroom in a modest house on Earth, Sarah Chen smiled as she welcomed her first alien students to the simulator network, ready to show them that the greatest discoveries often come from those who never learned something was supposed to be impossible.